Story 1. The stranger who always stood behind me in photos. I first noticed him by accident. A coworker had posted a group photo from our company's annual meetup. A harmless, boring picture, the kind no one ever looks at twice. Except my eyes caught something in the background. Behind my right shoulder, half hidden by the blur of a moving crowd, stood a man. Still, facing me. Head slightly tilted, like he was listening to something I had just said. I zoomed in. The picture pixelated into a mush of noise. His face was impossible to make out. Smudged, distorted, almost too dark for the lighting around him. I thought nothing of it, until the next day. I was clearing space on my old laptop and found a folder called College Memories. Inside, hundreds of photos from those years. I clicked through them, smiling at how young and stupid we all were. Then my finger froze on the trackpad. He was there too. Different setting, different lighting, different year. But the same posture, the same angle of his head, like he was standing inches behind me, close enough that if the photo had sound, I'd hear his breathing on my neck. Over the next hour, I checked more folders. A vacation photo from 2018, a picture from my sister's wedding, a random mall snapshot my friend took of me while joking around. He was in all of them, not always clearly, sometimes hidden behind a lamppost, sometimes blurred like a motion ghost, sometimes almost blending with the shadows, but always behind me, always leaning in, always at the same distance. I felt sick. I checked photos from my childhood. My hands went cold. My third grade class photo. There he was, partially obscured by a flag in the back row, standing behind me. A Christmas picture from when I was 7, taken by my mom. Behind my shoulder, reflected faintly in the glass of the living room window, the same silhouette. The more I looked, the more wrong it felt. His proportions, his posture, the strange blur around his face, like every camera had tried and failed to properly capture him. I brought the photos to a detective, not because I thought it was supernatural, because I worried it was a real man, a stalker, someone who had been following me for decades. The detective looked at the pictures for a long time. Then he said quietly, "These aren't normal distortions. The angle of the body, the placement, it doesn't change with your age. He always stands exactly 6 inches behind you, perfectly aligned, like a template." I barely slept that night. Around 3:40 a.m., I heard the soft flutter of something sliding through the letter slot in my front door. A white envelope. Inside, a printed photograph. A picture of me sleeping in my own bed. The photo was taken the previous night. The lighting matched. My blanket, my phone charger lying beside me, and behind me, kneeling on my mattress, his head inches from mine, was the same figure. Except this time, the face wasn't blurred. The camera had captured it fully. A pale, stretched face with dark, sunken eyes, lips slightly parted, head tilted in that same familiar angle, as if whispering into my ear. On the back of the print, there was a message. I finally caught up. That was 3 months ago. I haven't taken a picture since. I don't even keep mirrors in my house anymore. But sometimes, when I walk past dark windows at night, I swear I see a second reflection, just behind my shoulder, leaning in, like he's still trying to whisper something I'm not ready to hear. Story 2. The basement door that wouldn't stay locked. When my grandmother died, I inherited her house. Old, dusty, cold even in the summer. The kind of place where the floors sigh under your feet and the walls seem to breathe with the wind. She always told me one thing growing up. Never open the basement at night. I thought it was superstition. until the first night I stayed there. At around 2:17 a.m., I got up to get a glass of water and noticed the basement door was slightly open. Just a sliver, barely an inch. I knew I had closed it earlier. I clearly remembered pushing until the latch clicked. I shut it again firmly. Second night, same thing. But this time, the door was open wide enough for a person to slip through. I stepped closer and felt a wave of cold air rush up from the basement. Not a breeze, more like the air down there had been disturbed recently. I switched on the basement light. Nothing. Just concrete steps disappearing into the dark. I shut the door again, locked it, wedged a chair underneath, and pushed a heavy box in front of it. I woke to a soft creaking sound. The chair had slid aside. The lock was unlatched. The heavy box had been moved several inches. The door was open. I pressed my ear to the opening. Silence. Then, a whisper-soft shuffle, as if bare feet scraped across cold cement. I stumbled back, heart hammering, locked everything again. The next morning, I noticed something on the inside surface of the basement door. Small handprints, not adult-sized, child-sized, pressed into the wood. Some smeared downward, as if someone had been pushing, pulling, trying to rise. The police searched the basement. No one was there. No signs of entry. No hidden rooms. Nothing. Before leaving, one officer lingered over the handprints. He touched them lightly and said, "These look fresh." I didn't sleep in the house after that, but I returned during the day to pack my things. On the final day, I found the basement door open again. But this time, there was something on the floor. A small piece of folded notebook paper. Childlike handwriting. Messy. Tilted. Barely legible. "You don't need to leave. I'm used to hearing your steps." Below that, a second line. "Come down tonight. I'll be awake." The police told me it was a prank, that someone was squatting in the walls, that houses settle strangely. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I hear that same dragging shuffle beneath the floorboards, like something small is wandering in circles, waiting for footsteps it recognizes. Story 3. The girl who stood outside my window at 4:12 a.m. It started exactly 6 months ago. I woke up one night for no apparent reason. No noise, no nightmare, just a sudden, sharp awareness, like my body was warning me before my mind caught up. The clock on my nightstand said 4:12 a.m. I rolled over toward the window. A girl was standing on my front lawn, perfectly still, hands at her sides, hair hanging straight down, face pale in the moonlight. Her head was tilted slightly up, not enough to see her features, just enough to let me know she was looking at my window. I froze. We stared at each other, or at least, I stared at her. She didn't blink, didn't move, didn't react when I quietly lowered the curtain. The next night, I woke up again. 4:12. She was closer. Now she stood at the base of my porch steps. Same posture, same tilt of the head. On the third night, 4:12 again, she stood directly under my window, her face inches from the glass. I jumped back so fast I hit the wall. By the time I gathered the courage to look again, she was gone. I bought cameras the next day, set them around the yard, every angle covered. But the system corrupted itself overnight. Every camera glitched at exactly 4:11 a.m., not recorded, not frozen, just skipped. Like the time recorded a missing frame. I tried calling the police, filed a report. They found no footprints in the yard. None. But they also found something else. Tiny smudges on the outside of my bedroom window. like someone had pressed their face against it. A week later, a neighbor approached me, the older man across the street. He looked nervous when he asked, "Has she started coming to your house too?" I tried to act calm, failed miserably. "What do you mean?" He nodded slowly, eyes watering. "She used to stand outside my window when I was your age, every night. Same time. My father said she was looking for someone to let her in, someone who'd open the door." I swallowed. My mouth went dry. "Did you ever let her in?" He shook his head violently. "No, but my brother did." I waited. He didn't continue. "What happened?" I asked. The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. He disappeared. They never found him. Only his window, left wide open. That night I set an alarm for 4:10. I wanted to be awake before she arrived. When the alarm rang, the house felt too quiet. I walked toward the front window. As I reached for the curtain, I heard the sound, not outside, but at the door. A gentle, patient turning of the doorknob. Slow, deliberate. Someone trying carefully, not to wake me, but failing, because I was already standing there, frozen, breathing shallowly, watching the doorknob turn and stop, and then a soft knock, followed by a whisper, barely audible. "Please, open." Story 4. The man inside the storage unit next to mine. I never thought renting a storage unit would change my life. Most people go there for old furniture, boxes they don't want at home, or things they can't throw away. I went there because I needed space, literally and mentally. Work was stressful, my apartment was too small, and I was trying to declutter my life. The storage facility sat on the outskirts of town, a long stretch of concrete corridors, lined with identical metal doors, each one painted the same dull industrial blue. During the day, it felt harmless, ordinary, even boring. But at night, the place became something else entirely. Too quiet, too empty, too still. The first night I visited around midnight, I remember the sound my footsteps made on the concrete, echoing deeper than they should have. It felt like walking into the guts of a giant hollow machine. My unit was number 117. The one right next to mine, 118, had no lock on it then. Just a latch. I didn't think much of it. I lifted the door to my unit, the metal rattling loudly, and immediately heard a soft sound from the other side of the shared wall. A shift, a scrape, like someone adjusting their weight. Not a mouse, not a pipe, not the building settling. Someone standing right there in the dark. I remember my breath catching in my throat, but I forced myself to ignore it. I wasn't a child. This wasn't a horror movie. It was probably just the wind vibrating the door. I told myself that over and over as I loaded boxes into my unit, until I heard something else. Breathing. Slow. Measured. Drawn out. Right behind the metal wall. I stood completely still. The entire place was soundless, except for that breathing deep and steady, like someone trying not to be heard. I shut my unit, locked it, and left as calmly as possible. But the moment I reached my car, I practically sprinted inside. I didn't go back for 2 weeks. When I finally returned, Unit 118 now had a brand new padlock on it, a thick, heavy one. But the door looked wrong, bent inward slightly, as if someone had kicked it from the inside. Hard. I crouched and saw faint drag marks under the door, a black scuff, a piece of torn fabric caught underneath. Something was trying to get out. I reported it to the facility manager. He laughed and said, "Probably someone living in there. Happens more often than you think." His tone told me he didn't care, or didn't want to. The next time I came at night, My hands were already shaking before I even unlocked my unit. The air felt different, heavier, almost humid. I opened my storage door and froze. Someone had slid a slip of paper under it. Just a single sheet of lined notebook paper, folded once. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. One handwritten line. "Don't leave next time. I need you to open the door." My stomach dropped. That night I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed with an unknown number around 2:38 a.m. A single notification. "Hey." No name, no photo, just a message. From the area code near the storage facility. The next morning I went there one last time. Police cars were already parked outside. Yellow tape around Unit 118. Paramedics standing around talking in low voices. The manager saw me and quickly walked over. "Someone called about a smell," he said. "So we opened it." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. An officer approached me, holding a small notebook. "Are you the renter of Unit 117? He asked. I nodded. His expression tightened. Inside Unit 118, they had found a thin mattress pushed into the corner, empty food containers, scraps of fabric, old blankets, and deep, deep scratches carved all along the concrete floor, clustered specifically near the shared wall between our units. Not random scratches, not chaotic. Words, carved with something sharp. The officer showed me a photo on his phone. Concrete torn apart by someone desperate, someone strong, writing the same sentence over and over. "I know when you come. I know when you come. I know when you come." The officer's voice lowered. "Based on the remains, it looks like whoever lived there had been there for months, possibly longer." He swallowed hard. "And the medical examiner believes he was still alive when he made those scratches." I felt sick. He wasn't trying to get out. He was trying to get my attention. Because he always knew when I arrived. I moved out of town a week later. But in my new apartment, late at night, when the building is dead quiet, I sometimes hear soft scraping sounds through the wall. Slow, rhythmic, insistent, like someone carving words into concrete again, waiting for me to come back. Story 5. The shadow that stood on my stairs every night. I used to love my house. It was small, quiet, and charming, in a way older homes often are. The floors had personality creaking with every step. The walls were warm with age. The staircase, though narrow and old, added a sense of history. But the stairs started everything. The incident happened during late winter. I woke around 3 a.m., thirsty. The house was dark, and the heater had just shut off. Everything felt still. As I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, I passed the staircase. That's when I stopped. On the wall beside the stairs was a shadow. A tall shadow, clearly human-shaped. Arms at its sides, head tilted forward, looking directly down the staircase toward me. I immediately turned around. Nothing there. No person. No figure. Just the empty hallway behind me. But when I looked back at the wall, the shadow was still there. Perfectly still. My heart hammered. But the moment I stepped closer to the stairs, the shadow slowly dissolved, fading like smoke. I told myself it was headlights, or a weird trick of the hallway lamp. Anything but the alternative. The next night, the house felt colder than usual. My sleep was restless. When I got up to use the bathroom, I instinctively checked the stairs. And there it was again. Not at the top this time, but one step lower. Same shape, same posture, same oppressive stillness. The shadow didn't sway, didn't flicker, didn't distort. It just stood there, watching. The night after that, the shadow dropped another step, then another. Every night, like clockwork, around 3 a.m., it descended by exactly one step. By the 6th night, it was halfway down the staircase. That's when the fear really set in. because shadows don't move with purpose. They shift with light. They distort with angles. They appear and disappear based on sources you can trace. But this one acted like it had intent. On the 7th night, I slept with the lights on. Didn't matter. At 3 a.m., I woke up again, this time to the sound of the wooden stairs creaking. Not from the house settling, but from weight. Someone standing on them, breathing in the dark. I stepped into the hallway and froze. The shadow was standing on the very bottom step. Its shape was clearer now. Slim shoulders, narrow build. Not an adult, a child. Maybe 8 or 9 years old. I whispered, "What do you want?" The shadow didn't move, but the bottom stair, the one directly beneath the shadow, creaked again, slowly, as if someone was shifting their weight. I backed away. The shadow remained perfectly still, frozen in place. The moment I blinked, it vanished. Not like a light shutting off, more like something stepped out of the space it was occupying. The next morning, I found small footprints on the bottom step. Bare, dusty, childish imprints. And something else. Fingernail scratches along the wooden railing. Deep. Fresh. I installed a hallway camera. Hidden, high resolution. That night I stayed awake until 3 a.m. At exactly 3, the footage glitched. Digital static. Horizontal tearing. The kind that only happens with interference. Physical interference. At 3:01, the audio kicked in. Soft breathing. Slow. Uneven. Almost curious. At 3:02, the camera resumed visuals. Nothing on the stairs. Just the empty hallway. But the bottom step creaked again. Right in front of me. That was when I realized something awful. The shadow wasn't coming down the stairs. It was coming toward me. Step by step. Night after night. Not following a path, but closing a distance. The next night, I placed baby powder on the floor near the bottom step. A childish trap to catch. Something. In the morning, I found 2 tiny footprints in the powder, and beside them, a handprint, too small to belong to any adult. The fingers were long, thin, pressed with a strange sort of purposeful hesitation. It looked like the print of a child who had forgotten how to use their own hand. I don't sleep in the hallway anymore, but sometimes, just before dawn, the air shifts, and I hear a soft wooden creak coming from the bottom step, as if something is still waiting there, wondering why I'm not answering its call.